I wasn't supposed to be home early, she thought I was still at the meeting, but I walked through the hallway. And heard whisp, soft, forbidden, seductive. I didn't rush in, that I stood quietly. I watched. I recorded. She touched him like I wasn't they thought they were alone, they were wrong. The house was unusually quiet that evening. The kind of quiet that made every creak of the floorboard sound like a confession. Anna stood by the long hallway, her fingers gently brushing the wooden frame of a picture, a family photo from 2 summers ago. Her husband was away on a month-long business trip in Singapore. His mother had fallen ill, and as the good daughter-in-law, Anna had come to help take care of her in the old countryside villa. But she wasn't alone. Liam, her husband's cousin, the quiet one who had just moved in upstairs, was there too. They had never spoken much in past family gatherings. He was always polite, reserved. But ever since Anna arrived, there was something different. The air between them felt charged, like static before a summer storm. That morning, they passed each other in the narrow hallway, and she could have sworn his fingers brushed hers, too lightly to be casual, too intentionally to ignore. The day faded into a hazy dusk. Anna sat in the living room, pretending to read, but her eyes had been stuck on the same paragraph for over 10 minutes. She could feel it, that strange awareness of another presence in the house. Footsteps approached, soft, barefoot. From the second floor. She didn't turn her head. She didn't have to. Liam's voice, low and calm, floated over her shoulder. The hallway lights are too bright. They reveal things people try to keep in the dark. She felt her breath catch. Did I ask that why you only walk here at night? She replied, without facing him. There was a long pause. Then a whisper, maybe I like hearing your steps echo, when no one else is around. A chill ran through her spine. Or was it heat? Her hand gripped the edge of the book tighter. She finally turned. Their eyes met. No words. No smiles. No reason, just a shared understanding, dangerous, quiet, and growing like vines between the walls. Later that night, she woke to the sound of soft music playing from the upstairs room. Classical. Debussy. She stepped out of bed barefoot, the silk hem of her nightgown grazing her ankles. She didn't mean to knock on his door, she didn't mean to pause in the hallway. Her hand on the doorframe, she didn't mean to listen, but the door was slightly left open, and in that moment, with her heartbeat echoing louder than the music, and the scent of sandalwood drifting through the hallway, she crossed a line, not with her body, not yet, but with her thoughts. And sometimes, that's all it takes. Anna stood in the kitchen, pouring black coffee into a porcelain cup. The bitter aroma filled the space, grounding her, but not enough. Not after the way her thoughts had wandered the night before. Not after the images that replayed in her head, of a door left open, a glimpse of Liam's silhouette, the gentle curve of high. She didn't see him during breakfast. Not until midday, when she stepped out into the garden and found him leaning against the edge of the stone well, shirt half buttoned, sleeves rolled up, cigarette between his fingers. Not smoking, just holding. Like it gave him an excuse to stay still. He looked up, she looked away, too fast, but it was too late. That he had already seen it in her eyes. Later that afternoon, it rained. A sudden, heavy kind of rain, the kind that drowns out logic and replaces it with something primal. Anna stood at the window, watching droplets race each other down the glass. Behind her, the hallway remained still, quiet as ever. But her pulse wasn't. She could feel it in her throat, her fingertips. There was a knock. 3 soft taps, not urgent. Not accidental. She opened the door halfway. Liam was there. Hair damp from the rain, white shirt clinging lightly to his skin. His eyes, no longer quiet, no longer polite, held something else now. Hunger, maybe. Or recklessness. There's a leak upstairs, he said. I thought you should know. But she knew that wasn't why he came. Still, she nodded. Show me. They walked in silence up the stairs. The only sound was the storm outside, and their breathing, uneven and trying too hard to seem natural. He led her into the guest room. The ceiling dripped slowly above the window frame, but neither of them looked at it. She stepped in. He stayed by the door. Then, the question neither had spoken but both had asked in their minds for days, hung in the air between them. Are you going to pretend this isn't happening? She turned around, eyes on him. Liam. Don't say it, he interrupted. His voice was lower now, hoarse. Whatever you're about to say will make it harder to walk away. But she didn't say it, she stepped closer. So did he, and for a moment, the space between them ceased to exist. No kisses. No touches yet. Just the unbearable nearness of someone you shouldn't want, someone your body remembers even when your mind begs it to forget. Her fingers hovered near his collarbone. Not touching. Just, tempting fate. We can't, she whispered. I know, he breathed, but I'm still here. And then, finally, his hand found her wrist, gently, as if asking permission to exist in her gravity. She didn't pull away. The rain outside fell harder. Inside, it was no longer silent. The moment Liam's fingers brushed her wrist, Anna felt a heat rise through her skin that had nothing to do with the broken ceiling or the summer rain. It was deeper, something old, something she had tried to bury under routines, responsibilities, and wedding rings. His thumb grazed her pulse, slowly, like he could feel it hammering against his touch. She didn't move. He leaned closer, and the air between them thinned, that invisible tension stretching tighter with every inch until it was unbearable. Say something, he whispered. If I speak, I'll lie, she replied, her voice trembling. And I'm tired of lying. And then he kissed her, not gently. Not hurriedly. Just, truthfully. As if that kiss had existed between them for months, for years, and now it had finally found a mouth to land on. Her body responded before her conscience had time to object. His hand slid up her back, not possessive but desperate. Hers found the side of his neck, fingers tangling in damp hair. She thought of her husband, and then, she didn't. Somewhere outside, thunder rolled. Somewhere inside, a lifetime of silence cracked. They stumbled backward, lips never breaking, until her back hit the edge of the dresser. A photo frame fell, clattering to the floor. Neither of them looked. Liam's mouth moved from her lips to her collarbone, slow and reverent, as if he were tasting a sin he prayed to forget. Tell me to stop, he murmured against her skin. She didn't. Her hands slipped beneath his shirt. I've already crossed the line. They didn't speak afterward. They just lay side by side on the guest bed, the open window letting the scent of wet pine into the room. His arm was draped loosely over her waist, and her cheek rested against his bare shoulder. It should have felt wrong. It should have felt like betrayal, but instead, it felt terrifyingly right, like exhaling after holding her breath for too long. We can't let this happen again, she said, finally. We won't, he answered, but neither moved, and in that silence, in that one shared breath, they both knew it would happen again. Morning came like a betrayal. The light through the sheer curtains painted patterns across the bedsheets, the same sheets still tangled from the night before. Anna sat on the edge of the guest bed, one strap of her camisole slipping off her shoulder, her bare feet cold against the wooden floor. Liam was still asleep, his chest rising and falling slowly. Peacefully. As if nothing had changed, but everything had. She picked up her phone. 4 missed calls, from her husband, and a message, flight delay. Back tomorrow instead of next week. Love you. Her stomach twisted. Downstairs, the hallway felt longer than ever. Each step echoed louder. Guiltier. In the kitchen, his mother, her mother-in-law, was already preparing breakfast. The smell of congee and ginger filled the space, deceptively comforting. You slept late, the old woman said, not looking up. Was the rain too loud last night? Anna opened her mouth, but nothing came out, or perhaps. She added, eyes lifting, sharper than they'd ever been, it wasn't the rain that kept you up. Anna froze. Her heart pounded so loud it drowned out the clatter of dishes. Did she know? No, she couldn't, could she? The woman smiled. Soft, but not kind. This house hears more than you think. She said, turning back to her pot. Anna escaped to the garden, needing air, needing distance, but Liam was already there. He stood under the fig tree, cigarette in hand, same as the first day. But today, he didn't look at her like before. He looked tired. Like a man who'd climbed over a fence only to find the other side just as cruel. "You're leaving tomorrow?" he asked, voice rough. "He's coming back." Silence. "What happens now?" she whispered. "Nothing," he said. "We pretend. You smile. I disappear. You think you can just vanish after that night?" He looked at her then, really looked. And for a moment, she saw pain in his eyes. Not from guilt. But from wanting more and knowing he shouldn't. "I've disappeared before," he said. "You're not the first woman I had to walk away from. That hurt more than it should've. And I'm not the last." She said bitterly. Liam crushed the cigarette beneath his shoe. "You already knew the answer when you opened that door last night." That evening, Anna packed. She didn't cry. Didn't break. But her fingers trembled every time they folded a piece of clothing that still smelled like cedarwood, like him, and when the night fell, she walked down the hallway one last time. The light above flickered, just once. His door was closed, but under the crack, she saw it, a thin sliver of light that he was awake, that he was waiting, but she passed by. Didn't stop. Didn't knock. Didn't look back, because the most painful part of crossing a line is pretending you never did. The airport was too bright, too clean. Too loud. Anna stood near the arrival gate, clutching her beige trench coat tighter around herself. Her phone buzzed again, another message from her husband. "Just landed. Be out in 5. She had practiced her smile 3 times already in the rearview mirror. Soft. Familiar. Warm, the same smile she used to wear before, when she finally saw him, walking toward her with that tired business casual confidence and laptop bag over one shoulder. She smiled exactly the way she rehearsed that he kissed her cheek. "Missed you," he said. "Me too." They hugged. His arms were strong. Her body didn't flinch. But deep inside, something had calcified. Something that once fluttered now only watched. Back at their apartment, everything was in place. The white couch she picked out. The vanilla candle by the kitchen sink. The framed wedding photo with slightly crooked edges. He poured wine. She reheated the curry his mother sent home with her. They talked about flight delays, market volatility, and the neighbor's noisy dog. What they didn't talk about was the distance, not physical. He sat right across from her. But the space between their thoughts? Vast. Hollow. Echoing. That night, he fell asleep quickly. Anna lay beside him, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling. The AC hummed softly. His breath was slow, steady. She turned her head. There, beside her, was a man who had always been good to her. Kind. Faithful. Predictable, and yet, her skin remembered other hands, her mouth remembered other words, her heart didn't know what it felt anymore. She turned to the wall. Pulling the blanket higher. "Forget it," she whispered to the dark. "Forget everything." But memory doesn't obey, it lingers, in the corner of the eye, in the smell of rain, in the way a hallway light flickers without reason. A week passed. Liam didn't call. Didn't text. Didn't exist. Or maybe he did, just not in any way the world could see. Anna avoided looking at mirrors too long. She avoided passing by the hallway in their building at night. She avoided fig trees. Rain. Debussy, but the worst wasn't the missing. It was the not knowing if he missed her back. One afternoon, as she was organizing old files on the shared laptop, a pop-up appeared in the corner. A message. From an unknown number. No name. Just a number. The message read, "Did you ever go back to that hallway?" She froze, heartbeat loud. Mouse trembling in her grip, she stared at the screen, the cursor blinking, waiting for her to respond, but she didn't. She closed the laptop, and whispered to herself, "God, I wish I could forget." It was a Thursday, nothing special. Nothing planned. Anna had spent most of the day folding laundry, sipping cold tea, and scrolling through articles she wouldn't finish. Her husband was at work. The silence in the apartment had become background noise, a soundtrack to her now ritualized detachment. then the doorbell rang. One sharp chime. Clean. Unexpected, she froze halfway through folding a white shirt, not hers. Her husband's. The hallway camera on her phone buzzed, she tapped it open, and dropped the phone. Liam, standing there. Casual. Calm. As if nothing had ever happened. As if showing up at her apartment in broad daylight, after disappearing without a word, was a perfectly reasonable thing to do. She opened the door without knowing why. He looked at her like he had never stopped. Anna. Just her name. One word. But his voice, it carried the weight of 1,000 unsaid things. Why are you here? She asked, the breath behind her words unsteady. I didn't want to text. I needed to see you. She hesitated. Then stepped aside, the door closed behind him. Just like that, the past entered her present. He didn't sit. He stood by the window, glancing at the skyline, the same one she used to stare at, trying to forget the shape of his hands. I'm leaving the country, he said quietly. She blinked. Her throat tightened. Where? Lisbon. A year, maybe more. She nodded slowly. So this is a goodbye? Liam turned, finally looking at her, really looking. No. It's a confession. Of what? Of how hard it's been. Of how I still hear your voice when I'm alone. Of how I replay the sound of your footsteps outside that guest room door. Anna stepped back, her heart racing. You shouldn't say these things. I know. But I had to. Do you want me to leave? She didn't answer, her silence stretched, taut. Trembling, then, slowly, she took a step forward, and another, and stood in front of him. Close enough to smell the familiar musk on his collar. Close enough to feel the static between them rising like a storm about to break. No, she said. But I should. He raised his hand, then tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, a gesture so gentle it felt like forgiveness and temptation, all at once. Then let me have just one more hour, he whispered. Liam, no more after this. No messages. No memories. 1 hour. And then I walk away for good. She should have said no, she should have closed the door, she should have walked back to folding shirts and pretending everything was fine, but the problem with forbidden things is that they always taste sweetest right before they disappear. The apartment clock ticked louder than usual, each second counted down something unnamed, something trembling between a beginning and an end. Anna stood in the doorway of the bedroom, her back to Liam, eyes staring at the muted reflection in the full-length mirror. She could see his silhouette behind her. Still. Waiting. Neither of them spoke, they didn't need to, because in this moment, silence wasn't absence, it was permission. She walked to the edge of the bed. Slowly. As if every movement carved a deeper line into her memory. He followed, each step echoing like a question without punctuation. Their fingers met first. Hesitant. Familiar. Like picking up a conversation long left unfinished, then hands on waist, breath on collarbone, clothes fell away not in haste, but in reverence, each button undone like a vow broken in slow motion. Her skin remembered him. His hands remembered her, they moved like people who knew this would hurt later, who knew exactly how much and chose to do it anyway. And the golden afternoon light filtering through the blinds, there were no lies. No husbands. No guilt. No hallway shadows, just mouths seeking truth through touch, just limbs tangled in fragile abandon, just one last collapse, raw, trembling, needed. Afterward, they lay facing each other, the sheets wrapped around their bodies like a secret they couldn't return. No one smiled. No one cried. Because what do you do when you've burned your way through restraint and all that's left is smoke? Liam traced a fingertip down the curve of her shoulder. I'll remember this hour for the rest of my life. Anna swallowed. Her voice broke when she spoke. That's the problem. They dressed without speaking. He picked up his jacket. She didn't walk him to the door. He paused in the hallway, his hand on the doorknob, head bowed like a man about to step into a storm. Don't look for me, he said. I won't, she whispered, but her hands clenched as the door closed, and when the silence returned, it was louder than ever. That night, Anna lay in bed beside her husband. He was asleep already. Peaceful. Breathing soft, she turned her face to the pillow, hiding from the ceiling, from her thoughts, from the echo of 1 hour that would live forever between her ribs. She pressed her lips together, as if silence could undo anything, but her body still remembered, and some doors, once opened, never fully close again. 2 weeks passed, the apartment was still neat. The laundry was done. The bed was made each morning, but Anna had changed. She moved like someone trying to avoid being seen, not by others, but by her own reflection. She smiled at her husband when he spoke. She laughed at the right times. She nodded, listened, responded, but she was no longer there. Not fully, not honestly, and he could feel it. One evening, as they sat side by side on the couch watching a movie neither of them cared about, her husband spoke without turning his head. "You've been quiet lately." Anna blinked. Her stomach tightened. "Have I?" "You talk in your sleep now," he said. "You never used to." She looked at him then, really looked, but he still didn't meet her eyes. "What do I say?" "Nothing clear. Just, someone's name." The room fell still. "Whose name?" she asked, barely breathing. That he paused, then looked at her. "That's the thing. I can't tell. But it doesn't sound like mine." That night, she lay awake again, staring at the ceiling, every muscle tense beneath the sheets. He was beside her, back turned, and she realized, the danger wasn't being caught, it was being known. A few days later, she received a letter, not an email. Not a text. A real envelope. No name on the front. No return address. Inside, a single piece of paper. 3 words. "I didn't leave." Her breath caught. Her fingers trembled. No signature. No explanation. Just those words, written in handwriting she couldn't mistake. Liam. He was still here, still watching, still waiting, but for what? She folded the note and slid it into the back of her journal, behind grocery lists and travel plans, out of sight, not out of mind, never out of mind. At dinner that night, her husband casually mentioned something. Liam's mother called today. Said he cancelled his visa. Anna dropped her fork. "What?" "Yeah. I thought he was moving abroad." "So did I." "Weird," he said, frowning. "Wonder what changed his mind." But Anna already knew, and for the first time since Liam left, she didn't feel guilt, she felt fear. It started with the flowers. A small bouquet of white freesias placed just outside her apartment door. No note. No sender. Just left there one morning, fresh, dew still clinging to the petals. Anna stared at them for a long time before picking them up. Freesias. Her favorite, the exact flowers Liam brought her the first night she stayed at the countryside villa. No one else knew that. She didn't tell her husband, she just tucked them into a vase in the kitchen, told herself it was coincidence, and kept her hands busy the rest of the day, but the anxiety bloomed faster than the flowers. 2 days later, a book arrived in the mail. No wrapping. No invoice. No sender, just one novel, The Unbearable Lightness of Being by Milan Kundera. Inside, a note handwritten in the margin of the title page, "To be light is to forget. But I remember." Her blood ran cold. This wasn't a message. It was a presence. And he wasn't hiding anymore. That evening, she confronted the only thing she could control, herself. She waited until her husband fell asleep, then stepped out onto the apartment balcony, phone in hand, and finally typed the words she'd been avoiding. "Anna, why are you doing this?" No name attached to the number, but she didn't need one. A few minutes passed. Then, "Liam, you said goodbye with your mouth. Not with your body, Anna. You promised it was 1 hour." Liam, I lied." "So did you?" She wanted to scream. Instead, her fingers hovered over the keyboard. "Anna, what do you want?" "Liam, I want you to stop pretending. That you don't wake up aching. That you don't still look for me in crowded streets. That you don't remember how my name sounded when no one else could hear you." Her hands shook. She turned off the phone, but the words had already sunk in, like ink into skin. The next day, her husband asked her at breakfast, "Did you hear someone walking in the hallway around 3 a.m.? Anna's spoon froze halfway to her mouth. No, she said too quickly. Why? I thought I saw someone through the peephole. Standing there. But when I opened the door. Nothing. He shrugged. Probably the neighbor. Anna forced a laugh, but inside, everything began to crack, because if Liam was outside their apartment door, what else was he willing to do, and what would she become to stop it? That night, she dreamed of the hallway in the villa again. The light flickering, his voice behind her, her own footsteps. Going forward when they should have turned back, and when she woke, her hands were gripping the sheets so tightly, her knuckles had turned white, the bathroom mirror fogged with steam as Anna stood beneath the shower, letting scalding water fall over her skin. Punishment, maybe. Or just distraction, she hadn't slept properly in days. Her thoughts were a knot too tight to untangle. Every creak in the hallway made her flinch. Every message notification made her blood run cold. Liam had gone from memory to presence. From secret to shadow, and she was still hiding, but from whom? Him, or her husband, who now watched her a little longer each morning. As if trying to solve a puzzle he didn't remember starting, that night, she found her husband sitting on the couch, staring at his phone. The TV was on, but the volume was low. He didn't look up when she entered. "We need to talk," he said simply. She froze. "About what?" He turned the phone toward her. A paused screen, a security cam still from their building's hallway. Liam, clear. Standing just outside their door. 3:08 a.m. "Do you know why he was here?" Anna's mouth went dry. "No. He's your cousin." "Maybe he, don't," her husband said sharply. Not loud. Not angry, just, broken. "I asked my mom. She said you two barely spoke before this summer." Anna looked down that he stood. "Did you sleep with him?" There it was. No more fog. No more hallway shadows, just the blunt blade of truth, waiting to be lifted. She didn't answer, but her silence was loud enough to shatter everything. Her husband laughed, not in humor, but in disbelief. "My own blood. My own wife. It wasn't supposed to happen," she whispered. "But it did. A beat. And now what, Anna?" She looked up at him, eyes swollen with everything she hadn't said for weeks. "Now. I don't know." He didn't leave that night, but he slept on the couch, and when morning came, she found his wedding ring left beside the kitchen sink. Later that day, another letter arrived. An envelope, just a folded page, slid under the door. "I never meant to ruin you. But now that I have, I don't know how to stop wanting you." No name, but his handwriting, and at the bottom, scribbled faintly in pencil, "Come to the villa. One last time. No more ghosts. No more hiding." Anna stood with the letter in her hands, the hallway behind her too quiet, too still, and for the first time, she realized the line between desire and destruction was never as wide as she thought. That it was a breath. A step, a doorknob turning. The villa hadn't changed. The same gravel crunch beneath her shoes, the same wooden steps creaking under her weight, the same scent of pine, dust, and memory. Anna stood at the threshold, hand hovering near the doorframe. It was slightly ajar, just like that first night. She pushed it open. Inside, the air felt still. Like a breath held too long. "Liam." She called softly. No response. Just the ticking of the old wall clock and the echo of her voice returning to her like a ghost. She stepped in. Each room greeted her like an accusation. The hallway. The guest room, the place where they'd become undone. She found him in the library, back turned, fingers tracing the spine of a book she didn't recognize. He didn't look up. "I wasn't sure you'd come," he said. "I almost didn't. But you did." Anna closed the door behind her. The click echoed like the closing of a chapter she hadn't agreed to end. "What do you want, Liam?" she asked, voice steady despite her hands. He turned then, slowly, eyes darker than she remembered, but also, tired. "I wanted to remember this place with you. Without shame. Without guilt. Just once. There's no just once anymore." You know that. He stepped forward, close enough that she could see the fine lines around his mouth, the kind grief carves, the kind longing deepens. I wanted to stop, he whispered. I tried. I swear I did. So did I. But even when I close my eyes, I see you. Anna's breath caught. Then maybe the problem is, we only see each other in the dark. Liam laughed, a quiet, bitter sound. Then turn on the light, Anna. Show me who we really are. She didn't move. Didn't speak. Instead, she walked past him, into the hallway. The hallway, where their shadows once touched before their bodies did, where her guilt was born, where she had stood with her hand on a door and a future on the edge of her breath. She turned. He was behind her now, eyes fixed on hers. She leaned back against the wall. What happens if we do this again? She asked. We fall apart. And if we don't? A pause. Then we spend the rest of our lives pretending we never wanted to. He stepped closer. Their hands didn't meet this time, just their gazes. That was enough to burn. Say it, he said. Say you want me to leave. Anna opened her mouth, but no words came, because he already knew the truth, and so did she. Outside, a storm began to build, thunder low. Distant, like the warning of something inevitable, and in that hallway, where once they whispered secrets, now they stood in silence, not out of fear, but out of knowing, whatever happened next. No one could pretend anymore. The first raindrop hit the glass like a knock, then another, then 1,000. Anna stood at the window of the villa, arms crossed, watching the storm roll in. The trees bent. The sky bruised. The air felt heavy, charged, like the seconds before a confession. Liam stood by the fireplace, lighting a match. It flickered, then caught. The flame lit his face for a brief moment before it disappeared behind the logs. The fire crackled to life. So did the silence between them. I told myself if you came, I'd let you choose, he said. I wouldn't touch you. I wouldn't ask. And he lifted her, carried her to the rug by the fire, and there, with shadows dancing around them, they let go of every boundary they'd ever drawn. The firelight painted their bodies in gold and regret. The storm raged outside, but inside, only two people existed, not as wife and cousin, not as betrayers, not even as lovers, but as two halves of the same forbidden question: what if we were never meant to love safely, afterward? They lay side by side. Her head on his chest. His fingers in her hair. The fire dimmed. The storm softened. She closed her eyes. I don't want to go back. You will. You'll be here. Always. A beat. But only in the hallway. They didn't speak again. They didn't need to. Because sometimes the cruelest part of love isn't losing it, that it's knowing you can't take it with you. The city felt louder than usual. Anna's heels clicked against the pavement as she returned to the apartment. Her bag was heavier, though she hadn't packed much. Her chest tighter, though no one had touched her since. The key turned in the lock. The hallway light flickered. Home, or what remained of it. She stepped inside. The air was still. Sterile. Like the moments after a storm, when the world is unsure how to begin again. Her husband was in the kitchen, back to her, pouring water into a glass. He didn't turn around. You're back. 3 words. No warmth. No surprise. No welcome. I am. He placed the glass on the counter. You went back there. Not a question. Anna didn't deny it. Yes. He finally turned. His face was unreadable, a careful composition of pain, restraint, and something deeper, detachment. Did you sleep with him again? A pause. Yes. Silence, then, the quietest exhale she'd ever heard from him. Thank you for not lying. She expected him to scream. To leave. To throw things, but instead, he walked to the coat rack, took down his jacket, and picked up his car keys. Where are you going? She asked, voice barely audible. Away. Just for tonight. Maybe longer. He walked past her, paused. I think I stopped loving you the moment I realized you weren't even sorry. The door clicked shut behind him, and Anna stood there, alone, utterly naked in her truth. The hours passed without sound. The light stayed off. The shadows lengthened. She curled up on the couch, blanket around her, phone on the table in front of her. It buzzed once. A message, Liam, did you go home? She stared at it, typed nothing, because for the first time, she didn't know what home was anymore. She stood, walked to the hallway, and flicked on the light. It stuttered, then stayed, and in that stillness, under the same light where it all began, she whispered to no one, I don't know who I am now. No one answered, but the silence, it sounded like a closing door. A week had passed. No Liam. No husband. No one. Only Anna. She woke early each morning, brewed coffee, washed cups, wiped down the kitchen counter. She did all the things a good wife used to do. But now, there was no one left to witness them, no one to forgive. That afternoon, she visited her mother-in-law. The older woman opened the door and nodded. No smile. No accusations. Just eyes, the kind that had known pain long ago, but chose not to weaponize it. Did you come to say something? The woman asked, pouring tea. Anna sat upright, hands resting still on her lap. I just wanted to say. I was wrong. There was a long silence. Then the woman said, not everyone who's wrong is bad. But not everyone who loves is right. Anna lowered her head. I'm not asking to be accepted. Only to bear it. The woman nodded. That's enough. That night, Anna walked home. No car. No taxi, just the wind. The pale gold of streetlights. A city that wasn't sad, just cold. In a proud sort of way. When she reached the building, a figure stood by the entrance, Liam. His eyes no longer burned. They no longer begged. They only held quiet. And the knowledge that whatever was beautiful between them no longer lived in the present. I wasn't going to message again, he said. Just wanted to see if you're okay. She looked at him for a long time, then answered, as gently as the final line of a prayer, not okay. But still breathing. He nodded. Then I'll go. And he did. No turning back. No final touch. No last word, only this, a silence that, for the first time, had no more meaning hidden inside it. That night, Anna returned to the apartment, turned on the lights, saw no one. Heard nothing else break. She entered the bedroom. Faced the mirror. And for the first time, she looked at herself without crying. On the table, her husband's wedding ring still lay where he had left it. She didn't put it back on, she didn't throw it away, she just let it stay. As a reminder, that some wounds are not meant to be healed, they are meant to ache, until we are strong enough to live honestly with ourselves.